This is Monday with the Messiah for November the 3rd, 2025, here on Following Him, the Disciple Life. The Messiah, our Rabbi, our Lord, calls us to a higher level that touches on everything, including our thanksgiving, our thankfulness. This is Thanksgiving month. I know some want to skip to Christmas, and I know cultural institutions like that are more in the realm of opinion, but in my opinion, you're wrong. When you do that, you miss a wonderful holiday.
That red-suited Coca-Cola guzzler better wait his turn.
But the concept of Thanksgiving, definitely a biblical concept that must be in place always. And Jesus calls us to a higher level when it comes to our giving of thanks, to our thankfulness. Consider his words in Matthew 5, beginning in verse 10. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. He calls us to a higher level. The things that he mentions, persecution, being slandered, being reviled, being persecuted, being persecuted for righteousness' sake, because you do the right thing, because you stand for what is right, and you're persecuted, and you do what? You rejoice and be exceedingly glad. Talk about giving thanks in everything, like Paul talks about in 1 Thessalonians 5:18. That is Paul, as one of Jesus's apostles, one of his disciples, advocating the teachings of the ultimate and final rabbi, the Christ. That we don't approach life the same way anymore. And we find a way to give thanks in things that most people would view as, well, this is impossible. This is not normal. When you see, as we've seen recently, some people that can't understand, how a person of faith can do things like smile and laugh when a loved one, like a spouse, has been killed, and you have people saying, well, that's not normal. I wouldn't be okay for, the longest time, and all these things that people have been saying about some very public folks in recent times. They're not understanding that the Christ calls us to a higher level of looking at things. That we don't look at things just on the level of right here and now, and how much can I lessen my suffering? How much can I lessen my pain? And that's what I'm going to find my happiness in. Now, if you do lessen your suffering and your pain in legitimate, righteous ways, that's great. Rejoice in that. But that's something like being slandered, being persecuted, that you can rejoice and be glad in that? Yes. The Messiah calls us to a higher way of living that touches on everything, including our giving of thanks. And I know these verses I mentioned don't directly say the word thanks, but come on. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad. Yeah, there's definitely thanksgiving in those verses. And we go to Acts 5:41, we see the apostles carrying out these directives that they would have heard him teach about rejoicing when they suffer for him, because of him. We're called to a higher level in everything, including our thanksgiving. So if you think you can't find something to be thankful about during this month of Thanksgiving, which I advocate you don't skip it and go straight to Christmas, but take a moment to enjoy autumn without the spooky stuff from Halloween and just have Thanksgiving month. You can find something. If you're a follower of the Christ, you are called to a higher level in your thankfulness. You can find a way to rejoice and be exceedingly glad, even in bad circumstances. Thank you for being with me, and shalom.